You are not allowed to come in.
Leave. Only family is allowed here. That's what my father said to me at my own sister's wedding, after I had just spent 18 hours flying from London to Atlanta to be there. I was standing on a gravel path lined with white stones, my carry-on still in my hand, listening to a live string quartet playing inside a venue I wasn't allowed to enter. Through the glass doors, I could see my sister in her wedding dress, laughing, celebrating, living a moment I had been invited to, but denied at the door. My mother stood just behind my father. She saw me and said nothing. But what happened 3 days later was worse, because my phone rang and my mother asked me how I planned to pay a $40,000 wedding bill for a wedding I wasn't allowed to attend. Before I continue, take a second to like this video and subscribe to Fate and Truth Stories if you enjoy powerful real-life storytelling. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it there? Now let me take you back to how this all started. My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 34 years old. I work in financial compliance consulting in London. And 4 months before that wedding, I made a mistake. I trusted an invitation. Growing up, there were always 2 versions of life in our house. There was my younger sister Lily's version, and then there was mine. Lily was the favorite. Not subtly, not quietly, openly. She got birthday parties with themes and decorations. I got a cake from the grocery store. She got a car at 16. I got a lecture about responsibility. My father, Harold Carter, owned a small construction supply shop in Atlanta, Georgia. He talked about it like it was a legacy business. In reality, it barely stayed afloat. My mother, Evelyn, kept the peace, which usually meant agreeing with whatever my father said and redirecting any tension toward me. Lily was 5 years younger, charming, confident, the kind of person who genuinely believed the world should work in her favor. And most of the time, it did. I left home at 18. No send-off, no help, no emotional goodbye. Just a bus ticket and a suitcase. I worked my way through college, built my own life, and eventually landed a job in London. A job where I read contracts, analyze risks, find what doesn't belong. I didn't realize it then, but I had been training for that job my entire life. 7 years passed, 7 years of distance, 7 years of minimal contact. Then one day, an invitation arrived. Heavy paper, gold lettering, elegant, expensive. It was for Lily's wedding, at a venue called the Grand Magnolia Estate, a place that looked like something out of a movie. Chandeliers, gardens, luxury, completely out of reach for a family that once struggled to fix a broken air conditioner. Inside the envelope was a handwritten note. It wouldn't be complete without you. Please come. I stared at that note for a long time. 7 years of distance, and suddenly I was wanted, or at least that's what it sounded like. I booked the flight that weekend, £1,200 round trip. Told myself I was just curious, not hopeful. There's a difference, or at least that's what I told myself. I landed in Atlanta on a Friday evening, checked into a hotel. I never stayed at my parents' house anymore. That had stopped years ago. I called Lily. "Hey," she said quickly. "You made it?" "Yeah, just checked in. Anything I should know for tomorrow?" "Just be there by 2. Ceremony starts at 3. Her voice was rushed, distracted. "I have to go," she added quickly. "Wedding stuff." She hung up. Then I called my mother. Her first words were, "Oh, you actually came?" Not, "I'm glad you're here." Not, "I missed you." Just surprise, like she didn't expect me to show up. That was the moment something felt off. The next day, I arrived at the venue. The place was beautiful. Lights, music, guests dressed in black tie. Everything perfect. Except one thing. My father wasn't inside. He was standing outside, waiting for me. I walked toward him slowly, trying to read his expression, trying to understand. Before I could even speak, he said it. "You need to leave." I froze. "Excuse me?" "Only family is allowed here." I held up the invitation. "My name is on this." "That was a mistake," he said coldly. "You shouldn't have come." Behind him, through the glass doors, I could see my sister, laughing, celebrating, living a moment I had been invited to, but denied at the door. My mother stood just behind my father. She saw me and said nothing. But what happened 3 days later was worse, because my phone rang and my mother asked me how I planned to pay a $40,000 wedding bill for a wedding I wasn't allowed to attend. But then everything changed, because that's when the phone call came and my mother said, "We need to talk about the wedding bill." And in that moment, I realized something much bigger was happening, something that had my name written all over it, without my permission. 3 days after I was turned away from my own sister's wedding, my phone rang. It was my mother. No greeting, no "how are you?" Just this: "We need to talk about the wedding bill." I was sitting at the small desk in my hotel room, laptop open, halfway through reviewing a compliance report. "What bill?" I asked. A pause. Then she said it. "The venue, the Grand Magnolia Estate. The total is $40,000. I felt my body go still. "And?" I asked carefully. Another pause, thinner this time. "How are you planning to pay your portion?" My grip tightened on the phone. "My portion?" I repeated. "Yes," she said, her voice sharpening. "You're the guarantor on the contract." For a moment, I thought I misheard her. "I'm the what?" "The guarantor," she said, slower now, like I was the one not understanding. "Your name is on the agreement. You signed it." I stood up, slowly. "No," I said. "I didn't sign anything." That's when my father's voice cut in. He had taken the phone. "Stop pretending, Naomi. Your name is on the contract. You owe this family." The word family hit differently this time. "Family?" I said quietly. "You told me I wasn't family 3 days ago." Silence. Then he said coldly, "We'll deal with that later. Right now, you need to handle the bill." I exhaled slowly. "No," I said. "I need to see the contract." He hung up. That was the moment everything shifted. I stopped feeling hurt and started paying attention. I called the venue immediately. After being transferred twice, I reached an event coordinator. "My name is Naomi Carter," I said calmly. "I'm calling about the Carter wedding held on December 14th. I've been told I'm listed as a guarantor on the contract." "Yes," the woman replied, "you are." "I need a copy of that agreement." A pause. Then her tone changed slightly. "Of course, we'll need identity verification first." I sent my passport within minutes. Then I called my friend, Danielle, a paralegal back in Atlanta. "They're saying I signed a $40,000 contract," she asked. "Did you?" "No." "Then we're not panicking," she said immediately. "We're investigating." The next 48 hours were quiet. Too quiet. But behind the silence, something was building. The messages started. Aunt, uncle, cousins, all saying the same thing in different ways. "Just pay it. It's easier. Family comes first." Not one of them asked me what actually happened. Not one of them asked to see the contract. They already had a story, and in that story, I was the villain. Then my sister called. "Naomi," she said flatly, "just pay the bill." I closed my eyes. "You kicked me out of your wedding. That was Dad's decision, but you didn't stop him." Silence. Then she said something that changed everything. "You make good money. This isn't a big deal for you." I leaned back in my chair. "Did you know?" I asked quietly. "Know what?" "That my name was on the contract." 5 seconds of silence. That was all I needed. "You knew," I said. "It doesn't matter," she snapped. "Just pay it and move on." I ended the call. 2 days later, the contract arrived. I opened the email, downloaded the file, and there it was. Page 3, Guarantor, Naomi Carter. And beneath it, a signature. My name written in someone else's handwriting. I stared at it. The shape was similar, close enough to fool someone who didn't know me, but not close enough to fool me. I grabbed my passport, opened it, placed it beside the screen, side by side. There was no doubt. "That's not my signature," I said out loud. I called Danielle immediately. "It's forged," I told her. "How bad?" "Not even close." She exhaled. "Then you're clear," she said. "That contract is void." But I wasn't done, because the next move wasn't just about clearing my name. It was about exposing the truth. I sent a formal notice to the venue, statement of denial, proof of signature, request for investigation, everything documented, everything precise. 2 days later, they responded. Upon preliminary review, collection activity against you has been suspended. That was the first sign. They believed me. Then came the second email, the one that changed everything. The event coordinator wrote, "The person who submitted the guarantor form was an older man. He signed it at the front desk." I didn't need a name. I already knew. My father. He had walked into that venue, picked up a pen, and written my name like it belonged to him. 3 days later, my mother called again, crying this time. "We had no choice," she said. "You always say no." I let the silence sit. "You stole my identity," I said calmly. "We didn't steal anything," she snapped. "You're our daughter." "No," I said. "Daughters get asked." The truth spread through the family quickly. The same people who told me to just pay it went quiet. A week later, the final email came. "The guarantor agreement has been declared invalid. All financial responsibility reverts to the primary parties." My parents. $40,000. Now theirs. I checked out of the hotel that morning, got into my car, and drove to the airport. On the flight back to London, I slept, for the first time in days. A week later, my sister called again. "Naomi," she said, "Tyler knows." Her voice was smaller now. "He canceled the honeymoon." I said nothing. "Naomi, can you talk to him?" "No," I replied. "That's your truth to explain." A few days later, my father called. "They're threatening legal action," he said. "I know," I replied. Silence. Then he said something I never expected. "I thought you'd just pay it." I looked out the window of my apartment. You thought wrong. Months passed. Things changed. Consequences settled in. But me? I learned something. Family is not who shares your name. It's who respects it. Because at the end of the day, there's one rule I live by now. Nobody signs my name but me. If this story hit you, like, subscribe to Fate and Truth Stories, and drop your answer in the comments. What would you have done in my place?